The Whispering Forest. In the heart of West Africa, beyond the tall grasslands and winding rivers, lay a small village called Okuta. The people of Okuta lived simple but content lives. They rose with the sun, tilled their land, cast their nets into the river, and gave thanks to the gods for what little they had. The village was surrounded on all sides by a thick, dark forest that reached up toward the sky like a wall of ancient trees. But no one in Okuta stepped into that forest after the sun went down. The villagers called it Ibo Oyo, the forest of no return. Children were raised with tales of spirits that lived within it. They were not ordinary spirits. They were night walkers, lost souls who walked on feet turned backward, whispering your name from the shadows. And if you answered, they would follow you until your soul was theirs. The forest never seemed to sleep. Even at midday, when the sun was highest, it stood dark and quiet. Birds never chirped in its trees. The air near its edge always felt colder, heavier. It was a place the old ones said had been cursed long before the village was built. Among the villagers was a young man named Obodil. He was tall, with sharp eyes and a strong heart. Often as a child, he was raised by his grandfather, Baba Tanji, a wise old man whose eyes had gone blind many years ago but whose ears missed nothing. Baba Tanji often sat beneath the large baobab tree near their hut, his walking stick across his lap, speaking in riddles and stories. He'd say, "When the forest whispers your name, my son, pretend you are deaf. Even the wind has ears in Ibo Oyo." Obodil would always laugh. "Grandfather, I am not afraid of trees and ghost tales. We need to stop fearing shadows." Baba Tanji would sigh. "It is not the trees, boy. It is what hides between them." For years, Obodil had stayed clear of the forest at night, just like everyone else. But in recent moons, strange things began to happen. 2 fishermen had vanished near the river. A child, gone during a game of hide and seek. A woman who stepped out to fetch water and never returned. No bodies. No blood. Just silence. The elders of Okuta held rituals and burned incense at the edge of the forest. They blamed the night walkers, saying they had been angered somehow, disturbed. Many stopped going near the trees even during the day. A quiet fear gripped the village like never before. But Obodil was not convinced. He believed the stories were just ways to keep people afraid, a means for the old to control the young. He was sure there had to be a real explanation for the disappearances, bandits, wild animals, anything but spirits. One bright morning, Obodil visited his cousin Kemi, who lived in Aya, the next village across the hills. He spent the day helping her build a goat pen, laughing and eating roasted maize by the fire. As dusk began to fall, Kemi urged him to sleep over and leave in the morning. But Obodil shook his head. "I promised Baba Tanji I would return tonight." Kemi raised an eyebrow. "The road is long and dark. And you know the stories." "I'm not afraid of shadows," Obodil smiled. There were 2 paths back to Okuta. The wide village road that curved around the forest, taking several hours, or the narrow footpath that cut directly through Ibo Oyo. That shortcut could get him home in less than half the time, but everyone knew never to take it after dark. Still, Obodil reasoned with himself. The sun hasn't fully set. If I walk quickly, I'll be home before nightfall. He said goodbye to Kemi, slung his satchel over his shoulder, and began walking toward the forest path. The air grew cooler as he approached the edge of the woods. Trees thickened, their branches clawing at the sky. Obodil took a deep breath and stepped onto the path. For a while, all was quiet. The forest floor was soft beneath his sandals. A few fireflies blinked in the distance. He hummed to himself as he walked, gripping the small knife at his waist just in case he ran into a stray animal. But then, the wind stopped. No breeze. No chirping. Not even the rustle of leaves. The silence was sudden and heavy. Obodil paused, turning his head. Just a forest, he whispered to himself. He walked faster. Then, from behind him, he heard it. A whisper. So soft, so faint, like a breeze speaking directly into his ear. Obodil. He stopped. A shiver ran down his spine. He spun around, heart pounding, eyes darting into the darkness. No one was there. He shook his head. Just the wind. He turned back to the path. Obodil. This time, it came from ahead. His grip tightened on his knife. Who's there? He called out. No answer. He began to walk again, faster now, almost jogging. Every step felt heavier. Every breath louder. Then he saw something up ahead, a faint figure standing in the middle of the path. It was a woman. She wore a white wrapper that shimmered like moonlight, and her hair flowed down her back like a waterfall of black silk. She stood perfectly still, watching him. Are you lost? She asked, her voice smooth, sweet, almost too sweet. Obodil took a cautious step back. Who are you? I can walk with you. You shouldn't be alone at night, she said, smiling. Her smile sent a chill through him. Then, he saw her feet. They were bare. But the toes pointed backward. Obodil's mouth went dry. Bobatanji's words echoed in his head, feet that walk the wrong way belong to souls that never rest. The woman tilted her head. You haven't answered me, Obodil. He hadn't told her his name. His heart thundered. Without a word, he turned and ran. Branches clawed at his arms. Roots tried to trip him. The path twisted and shifted. Behind him, he heard the sound of footsteps, loud, fast, but moving in reverse, like something running backward toward him. Obodil, the voice whispered again, closer now. You heard me. You answered. He didn't look back. He didn't dare. He burst out of the trees, breathless, eyes wide, as the village lights flickered in the distance. He didn't stop running until he collapsed at the edge of Okuto, gasping. A few villagers came rushing to him, shocked by his state. Bobatanji, sensing something was wrong, stepped out of their hut with his walking stick. Obodil said nothing. But in his mind, the whisper still echoed. Obodil, the eyes in the darkness. Obodil lay in bed that night, but sleep refused to come. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her, the woman in the white wrapper. Her backward feet. That soft, haunting voice whispering his name in the forest. He kept hearing it. Even now. Obodil. His eyes shut open. He sat up, chest rising and falling fast. The whisper wasn't in his head. It was outside, right outside the window. He stared at the thin curtain that swayed with the night wind. Slowly, he stood and reached for the small wooden dagger hanging on the wall. It was ceremonial, blessed by the village elders, but he gripped it like his life depended on it. The village was asleep. But the forest wasn't. Obodil stepped outside quietly, barefoot. The night air wrapped around him like wet cloth. Moonlight shimmered across the path leading to the edge of Ibo Oyo. Then, just beyond the tall grass, she appeared again. The woman from the forest. Only this time, her eyes glowed yellow, like fireflies caught in a jar. And beside her were others, shapes forming from mist, shadows pulling themselves into figures. They were human, but not. Tall, gaunt, and whispering. Their feet pointed the wrong way. Obodil froze. One by one, the figures moved closer, their heads twitching side to side. Their whispers layered over each other like 100 voices underwater. Obodil. 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 No, he whispered, stepping back. The woman with glowing eyes smiled. Her mouth stretched too wide, too sharp. You heard us, she said sweetly. You saw us. That means, you belong to us now. Obodil turned and ran. Down the village path. Past the old well. Into the hills. But the night walkers followed. He didn't hear their feet, he felt them. The air behind him was heavy and cold, and the voices grew louder. Obodil. Obodil. He sprinted toward the only place left, the shrine on the far hill, where the sacred drums once beat during planting season. His grandfather had told him no evil spirit dared step past the shrine's threshold. That the spirits of the ancient warriors guarded it still. He didn't know if it was true. But he ran there anyway. As he neared the shrine, a loud horn blasted from the trees. The sound shook the night like thunder. The night walkers shrieked and froze in their tracks. Obodil tripped and rolled into a small clearing. His head throbbed. His arms were scraped. But the whispers were gone. Everything was silent. He looked up and saw her. An old woman stood by a stone altar at the center of the grove. Her skin was dark as night, wrinkled like the bark of an ancient tree. Her eyes glowed faintly with blue fire. Around her neck were beads, feathers, and charms that clicked when she moved. She said nothing at first. Just watched him. Obodil tried to speak, but no sound came out. The old woman slowly walked toward him, then knelt beside him and placed a warm hand on his chest. You've been touched by them, she said. The ones who whisper. Obodil swallowed. Who are you? My name is Mama F. I am the keeper of this grove. And you, child, have made a grave mistake. Obodil sat up slowly. I didn't mean to. I didn't know. They called your name, Mama F interrupted. And you heard them. That is enough. I didn't answer, he said quickly. She nodded. Even silence cannot save you now. When the night walkers call your name, it marks your spirit. It draws a thread between you and them. A thread that cannot be cut by man's blade. Obodil felt a chill. Then what can I do? Mama F stood and walked toward the altar. She opened a small calabash and pulled out a charm made of woven grass, bone, and cowrie shells. She handed it to him. Wear this always. It will confuse their eyes and dull their whispers. But this is only protection, not a cure. Obodil looked down at the charm. Then how do I break the thread? Mama F's voice turned solemn. To break their hold, you must know why they walk. Long ago, they were like us. People. Innocent. But they were wronged, betrayed, and cursed. The stories you've heard are broken pieces of the truth. Obodil furrowed his brow. What happened to them? That, she said, you must discover. For only the truth of their pain can give them rest. Silence passed between them. Then Mama F added, they won't stop. They will wait, watch, and follow. You may not always see them. But they will be there. Until they take what belongs to them. Obodil stood, his body aching. Why me? Why now? Mama F looked past him into the trees. Because you stepped where you should not. Because you dared to look. Suddenly, the wind picked up. Leaves danced in a silent circle around them. The trees seemed to groan. A cold breeze kissed Obodil's cheek. The forest has opened its eye, Mama F whispered. And once it sees you, it never forgets. She walked back to the altar and began drawing symbols in ash across the stone. Go now, Obodil. Go home. Stay in the light. Speak to no voice that comes in the dark. And when the dreams come, do not run from them. He hesitated. Why? Because the dreams, she said without looking up, will lead you to the truth. Obodil nodded slowly. He took the charm, tied it around his neck, and turned back toward the path leading home. But before he left the sacred grove, he looked back. Mama F had vanished. Only the flickering blue fire from the altar remained. Later that night, back in Okuta, Obodil returned to Bobatunji's hut and fell to his knees. The old man was waiting, his blind eyes staring into the dark as though he had seen it all. "You went into the forest, didn't you?" Obodil didn't speak. He simply nodded, shaking. Bobatunji sighed deeply. "I warned you. I told you." "I didn't believe," Obodil whispered. "Now you do." They sat in silence for a long time. Then Bobatunji said, "Did you see the woman?" "Yes." "Then you are marked." "I met someone. A priestess. Mama F." At this, Bobatunji's head snapped toward him. "Mama F still lives. You know her. She was the last protector of the forest before the Nightwalkers returned. Some say she became part of it. Others say she speaks with the ancestors. She told me I must find the truth, the secret behind the Nightwalkers' curse." Bobatunji nodded slowly. "Then that is what you must do." "I don't know where to start." Bobatunji smiled sadly. "Start in your dreams, child. For that is where the dead still speak." Obodil touched the charm on his chest. It was warm. The forgotten curse. For days, Obodil stayed close to his grandfather's hut, only stepping out during daylight. The charm from Mama F never left his neck, and even then, he often caught shadows shifting just outside the corner of his eye. The whispers were quieter now, but never truly gone. Bobatunji knew something had changed in his grandson. His laughter was gone. His confidence, shaken. He spent most of his time inside, staring into the fire, thinking. One evening, Obodil sat beside Bobatunji under the baobab tree. The old man smoked his pipe quietly, listening to the wind. "Grandfather," Obodil said, breaking the silence. "Tell me the truth. About the forest. About the Nightwalkers." Bobatunji turned his head slightly, as if waiting for the spirits to give him permission to speak. Then, in a low voice, he began. "Long ago, before Okuta was built, the land belonged to another people, the Erekesai. They lived in peace with the forest. They spoke to the trees, honored the rivers, and never took more than they gave. Their leader was a wise priestess named Iwara. She could speak to spirits and call rain from a clear sky. But one day, a greedy king from the north came. King Adikana. He was feared across the region for his cruelty. He wanted power, not just over people, but over the spirit world too. He believed if he could control the forest spirits, he would become immortal." Obodil leaned in closer, his fingers curling around the charm on his chest. "The king sent warriors into the forest," Bobatunji continued. "They pretended to come in peace. The Erekesai welcomed them with open arms. But on the night of the harvest moon, the warriors struck. They captured Iwara and her people and brought them before King Adikana." Obodil felt a knot in his stomach. Why would he do that? To use them, Bobatunji said bitterly. He forced the priestess to perform a ritual meant only for protection. But he twisted it, for power, for blood. Iwara resisted. So the king had her and her people sacrificed under the sacred tree, what we now call the Stone of Rest. As they died, Iwara cursed the land. She called to the ancestors with her final breath and said, "Let us walk until we are remembered. Let the forest never forget our names." Bobatunji's voice fell to a whisper. The next morning, King Adikana disappeared. His guards vanished. His palace turned to dust. Only the forest remained. Obodil's voice was hollow. "The Nightwalkers, they are the Erekesai." Bobatunji nodded. "Twisted by betrayal. Lost in death. Searching for what was stolen, their names, their truth." Obodil sat in silence for a long time. The fire crackled. A crow called in the distance. "Grandfather," he said slowly. What if I could give their names back? Baba Tanji tilted his head. What do you mean? Mama F said their curse is tied to the truth being forgotten. What if I go to the Stone of Rest and speak their names aloud? That place is deep in the forest. It's where they were killed. Where the curse was born. No one goes there. I must, Obadil said. If I don't, they'll keep following me. And others. This won't end until someone ends it. Baba Tanji touched his shoulder. You are brave, Obadil. But you must not go blindly. You need their names. Their real names. Where would I find them? The old man paused. In the sacred scrolls. Hidden beneath the shrine. I copied them long ago when I was still a boy. I will show you. That night, they lit a lantern and walked together to the old shrine outside the village. Dust covered the floor. Cobwebs clung to the walls. Beneath a slab of stone behind the altar, Baba Tanji pulled out a small bundle wrapped in cloth. Inside were 5 scrolls, written in ancient symbols and fading ink. These are the records of the Erekisai, he said. Names. Prayers. Histories. Passed down in whispers. Hidden from kings and fools. Obadil spent hours reading them, with Baba Tanji translating each word. Many were unreadable. Some were smushed. But 5 names remained clear. Ewara, the priestess. Abani, a healer. Te and Kihind, twin warriors. Omotola, a mother with a child in her arms when she died. Obadil copied them carefully onto a clean cloth and folded it into his pouch. I'll go tonight, he said, standing. Baba Tanji stood with him. You won't be alone. The ancestors will walk with you. I'm not afraid, Obadil lied. You should be, Baba Tanji replied. But fear can guide the wise. As the moon reached its peak, Obadil prepared for his journey. He dressed in white, tied charms around his arms, and carried a small gourd filled with river water blessed by the elders. Around his neck hung Mama F's charm. He whispered a prayer to the ancestors. Then, without a word to the sleeping village, he stepped into the forest. Midnight. Deep in Ibo Oyo. The trees groaned in the wind. The path twisted in unnatural ways. Obadil moved carefully, each step watched by unseen eyes. The charm pulsed warmly against his chest. When he finally reached the Stone of Rest, the air grew still. It was a massive, flat stone surrounded by trees bent as though in mourning. Strange markings covered the rock, handprints, blood stains faded with time. Obadil stepped forward and knelt. He opened the cloth and read the names aloud. Uwara. Abani. Te. Kihind. Omotala. The forest held its breath. The ground trembled. Then came the voices. You remember. You speak our names. Obadil. Shadows emerged from the trees. 5 glowing figures, their backward feet no longer hidden. Their faces were cracked, hollow, filled with sorrow. The woman in white stepped forward, Ewara. She looked at him, her voice no longer smooth and sweet, but ancient and trembling. You, remember? Obadil nodded, voice firm despite the fear in his chest. I know what happened to you. You were betrayed. You were silenced. I came to give your truth back to the land. Ewara's form flickered. Behind her, the others watched silently. Speak it, she whispered. Let it live again. Obadil took a deep breath and raised his voice. You were not monsters. You were healers, protectors, warriors, mothers. You were taken in greed. But your names will not be forgotten. I speak them now, before the ancestors and spirits. He poured the blessed water onto the stone and whispered a final prayer. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the ground shook. The wind howled. The night walkers screamed, not in anger, but in release. One by one, their bodies cracked and glowed, turning to light. A warrior looked at Obadiah one last time and smiled, not the haunting smile from before, but a peaceful one. "Thank you." And then, they were gone. Only the whisper of leaves remained. But as Obadiah turned to leave, something else stepped into the clearing, a new shadow, darker than the rest. It had no face. No feet. Only a voice. "You broke their chain, but mine still binds." Obadiah's eyes widened. There was another into the mouth of shadows. Obadiah stood at the edge of the forest once more, the same place he had crossed weeks ago, but tonight, it felt alive with a heavier dread. The charm from Mama F pulsed faintly against his chest. It was warm now, as though it too could feel the presence waiting within the trees. He clutched the cloth containing the names of the Erekesai, folded it carefully and tucked it into his waistband. In his hand, he carried a small pouch of ashes and blessed herbs. Around his wrist, Boba Tunji had tied a red cord, a traveler's protection, he'd said, passed down from their ancestors. Obadiah took a final breath, turned toward the twisted trees, and stepped into the darkness. The forest swallowed him whole. At first, it was quiet. Then came the changes. The deeper Obadiah walked, the more the forest began to twist, not in shape, but in time. The air thickened. His footsteps echoed seconds after he took them. Leaves trembled with no wind. Shadows bent upward. He could no longer tell if it was night or some ageless, timeless space in between. The trees whispered. Not with mouths, but with memories. Voices drifted around him, weeping children, singing women, the drumbeat of war, the chant of harvest. Each voice lingered only a moment before another replaced it. A dizzying carousel of the lust. Obadiah pressed onward. Suddenly, he felt it, the chill of something behind him. He turned. Figures stepped out of the darkness. One by one. The night walkers. But this time, they did not attack. They watched. Their eyes glowed blue, mouths closed, feet still turned the wrong way. Yet one stepped forward, smaller than the rest, thin, delicate. Her form shimmered like smoke. And when she spoke, her voice didn't whisper. It trembled. Obadiah. He froze. "You, hear us," the spirit said. "You see more than they ever did." The figure stepped closer. Her face flickered. Her hands looked like those of a young girl. "I'm not like the others," she said. "What's your name?" Obadiah asked. The spirit tilted her head, eyes dimming. "I don't remember." The other spirits began to move restlessly around them, their presence growing heavier. The trees groaned. The path behind Obadiah was gone. He stepped forward cautiously. "Who were you before the curse?" She looked up. "They called me many names. But one felt warm. A song. A lullaby. A song." Obadiah's heart skipped. Boba Tunji had always sung a strange melody when Obadiah was a boy. A lullaby, slow and soft, sung in a language older than the village. He never knew where it came from, only that his grandfather said it brought peace to restless spirits. And in that moment, the tune echoed in Obadiah's head. He began to hum it. The spirit gasped. "That song, yes." Obadiah closed his eyes and sang the words softly. "Naya of the morning dew. Child of the river's blue. Dance again beneath the sun. Rest now, your time is done." The spirit clutched her chest. "Naya," Obadiah whispered. "Your name is Naya." The other night walkers shrieked. Their forms twisted violently. The forest trembled. Wind burst through the trees. "Eno," the spirits cried. "Stop him." They lunged. Obadiah turned and ran through the thick brush, toward the glowing shape of the stone of rest. It stood like a tomb in the clearing, etched with blood and tears. The spirit swarmed him, hands like claws, eyes like fire. He fell at the stone, cut and bleeding. Obodil slammed the pouch of herbs onto the surface and threw the ashes into the wind. Then he shouted, Naya, Iwara, Abani, Te, Kihind, Omotala. The names echoed across the clearing. The night walkers howled in agony, but Naya fell to her knees, light pouring from her chest. The charm around Obodil's neck burst into flame, but it didn't burn. It shone like a second sun. Then, a blinding light exploded from the stone. The forest lit up with golden fire. The night walkers screamed, not in rage, but in release. Their forms cracked like glass and fell away in shards of memory, children laughing, mothers singing, warriors praying. One by one, they rose into the sky as streaks of silver light, vanishing beyond the treetops. Only Naya remained. She looked at Obodil and smiled, tearful. You remembered us. And then she too disappeared. The forest fell still. The stone of rest no longer wept. Obodil slumped to the ground, tears streaming down his face. He had done it. But before he could rise, the ground shook again, heavier this time. The trees creaked. A black mist began to spill from the earth. A voice, ancient and cold, rose from beneath the soil. You freed them. But you woke me. The light in the dark. The stone of rest still shimmered from the last burst of light as Obodil knelt before it, breathing heavily. The forest was quiet now, but not empty. The air trembled with unseen presence. He rose slowly, clutching the cloth covered in ancient names, each one etched from forgotten carvings and songs whispered through generations. He knew what had to be done. With every step he took around the stone, he read a name aloud, clear, strong, with reverence. Adana. Chigozie. Akena. Folek. Ubiora. The air shifted with each name. From the darkness, figures began to appear, twisted, broken, monstrous. But as their names were spoken, their forms cracked and faded. Flesh melted into ash, then ash to starlight. Their whispers no longer held malice. They wept, smiled, bowed, and vanished into peace. Dozens, then hundreds. The weight of centuries lifted name by name. And then, he spoke the final one. Dike. The forest held its breath. From behind the stone, a massive shape emerged. Not a beast, not a ghost, but something older. Taller than any man. Its skin was black. Its eyes, glowing sap. A mighty spirit twisted by pain and betrayal. It was the first protector, turned into the first nightwalker. You dare speak my name, mortal, the spirit thundered. Obodil stood his ground. Yes. Because I know who you were. You protected this land before it turned against you. The spirit snarled. I bled for them. I died for them. And they burned my name from memory. I do not want peace. I want justice. It raised a hand and the trees around them bent, groaning under invisible pressure. Obodil stepped closer. You want justice? Then take it. I will not fight you. I will not spill more blood for a crime I didn't commit. He dropped the charm from Mama F at the spirit's feet. You can destroy me. But then the curse continues. Or, you can choose to end it. Here. With forgiveness. The spirit hesitated. Its form shimmered. No one ever offered me that, it said, voice trembling. Not even the gods. Obodil nodded. I'm not a god. Just a man. But I remember your name. I honor it. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then the spirit knelt. And wept. His twisted body dissolved like mist at sunrise, leaving behind nothing but a gust of wind that smelled of rain and earth. A warm breeze blew through the forest. Flowers bloomed where roots once strangled. The curse was broken. The dawnlight pierced the forest canopy as Obadil emerged from the woods. The villagers were waiting. When they saw him, whole and alive, the fear in their eyes gave way to wonder. Obadil said nothing at first. He simply walked to the center of the village, looked toward the forest, and knelt. Baba Tanji stood slowly and placed a trembling hand on his grandson's shoulder. "You've done what no one else dared. You remembered them." Mama F stepped forward. "From this day on, the forest is no longer cursed. It is sacred. And you, Obadil, are its guardian." The people cheered. Drums were brought out. Fires were lit. And for the first time in many generations, the village of Okuta danced deep into the night. Weeks later, the forest thrived. Children played near its edge. Farmers returned to land once feared. Birds sang sweeter. But one quiet evening, as the sun dipped low and fireflies danced, a young child named Ehuma wandered a little too far toward the trees. She paused. The leaves rustled gently. And then, a voice, soft as mist, called her name. Ehuma. She turned slowly, eyes wide. And smiled. The end.